Hello everybody, this is Tim here again, another movie review, this time for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. This film was originally supposed to go to theaters, but they decided at the last minute to cut a deal and send it to Netflix. I'm fine with that. I watch a lot of movies on streaming, so that's cool. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre series is an interesting one. The original one is a masterpiece classic. It's really a product of its time, which is why none of the sequels measure up to that original film. It's like lightning in a bottle, and easily Tobe Hooper's best film. Tobe Hooper is like, God rest his soul, he was like a hit or miss director. Most of his older films are really good, but then after a certain point, he just made a lot of bad stuff. But that original film was partially his good directing that made it so good, and partially just kind of an accident that made that film so good, which is why the sequels have never measured up, because that film was a product of its time, and you just can't replicate that today, and you couldn't make that same movie today with today's audiences. The original film is easily a 4 out of 4. I rewatched all the sequels again. I did reviews for them back in the day, but I rewatched them all again because I wanted to see how my thoughts and opinions might have changed on them. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Tobe Hooper knew he couldn't replicate the first movie. I think it's an awesome black comedy. I would give it a 4 out of 4. See, even Tobe Hooper knew he couldn't replicate the first movie, so I think the second one's an awesome black comedy. Part 3, I think, is all right. It's just kind of there. I like it. It's all right. It's a time waster. I'd give it a 2.5 out of 4. The Next Generation isn't easily a 0, but in terms of so bad it's good, it's a 3 out of 4 just for good, dumb entertainment. But that's easily the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre from an actual, like, serious filmmaking level. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake is good, I would say, in terms of straight horror. It's the second best of the series. It's a 3 out of 4. It's a good reboot, which really 3 and 4 were both reboots too. But yeah, it's a good reboot. Arlie Army pretty much makes the movie though, and Leatherface is really cool in it. The guy does a good job playing like a tougher, more stronger, more brutal version of Leatherface. Leatherface, not Leatherface, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning is another one that's just kind of a 2.5 star film. It's all right. It's a prequel. You pretty much know everything that's going to happen in it. Most of it's just kind of a repeat of the remake. It doesn't really offer anything new, and the ending is like really glitched and easy to see coming. It's just kind of all right for the gore. Texas Chainsaw, I keep saying Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but Texas Chainsaw 3D, that one sucked. In terms of just pure dull activity, that's the worst. The one with Alexandra Daddario, who is super good looking, but the movie itself was terrible. The writing is just awful in that. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. The film is legendary for how horrible it is. The other one they made after that, the newest one besides this one, the one just called Leatherface, which is Leatherface 2017, I should say, which was a prequel to the original and 3D. That one is a good horror film, but it's not a good Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. And yeah, that's as far as I feel about that one. It's a good movie. It's just not a good like Texas Chainsaw Massacre feeling movie. But this one, but you really couldn't make that one like that because it's meant to be an origin story for Leatherface, so it really can't really feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, a traditional one, because it's all got to focus on Leatherface. Here in this one, they do the same thing. It all focuses on Leatherface, but this one feels much more like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. It's a direct sequel to the original one, similar to 3D, but it doesn't have the bad writing of 3D. You got these kids who are coming into the Texas town from the original film who want to gentrify it, which is basically when you take a town, try to rebuild it up and run all the people out of there so you can get your types of people that you like to move in there pretty much. But yeah, the kids, you can see their hearts are kind of in the right places. Some of them are assholes. Like there's this black dude who comes off really smug and annoying, and I was pretty much glad when he died. Like a few of the kids are just kind of dickwads. And some of the teen characters are kind of stock and kind of rote, but the acting's good from the teens. Like this is a slasher film. It's not really like a torture porn thing with the intensity of the original or even the remake. It is pretty much a straight up slasher film here. The main girl, who's this like school shooting survivor, which is kind of a neat idea, and we all know by the end she's gonna have to learn to take back control of her life and pick up a gun herself and defend herself. And you can see she's like the most smartest, intelligent one out of the teenage group, or the one with the most common sense. And pretty much Leatherface's mother figure, like a family member, has been taking care of him at this orphanage since the original film. And we don't know what happened to his other family members, whether they died or they just disappeared, got arrested, whatever. We never know. But we just know Leatherface got away, and he's being taken care of this other woman who's not a killer, and she's just kind of raising him and taking care of him. She seems like a good woman, and she's nice to the kids, but they try to actually run her out of her own house, and they cause her to have a heart attack pretty much from a stress, and she dies on the way to the hospital in an ambulance. And Leatherface is there with her, who's pretty much her son, and he doesn't wear like any human mask, so they never know what Leatherface's actual face looks like, so that's the reason they were never able to capture him. So he's there with her, and when she dies, he goes berserk, takes down the kids, of course, because it's their fault, except for like the main girl. Her arc is kind of predictable, but the main girl in this does a good job, and the action scenes in this are good, and the gore in this is fucking great. The kill scenes are great in this. And the action is really good here, too. And when, of course, Leatherface goes on a rampage, he takes, like, his mother's face to remember her by. And you actually kind of feel sorry for Leatherface because that's the thing. Leatherface is retarded. He's not really a straight-up villain. He just kind of kills out of pure vengeance and out of the first movie when he was scared. And this is years later. And so he's a little bit more mature for a child, but not by much. The Leatherface in this one is honestly the most badass Leatherface we've ever had on screen. Just in terms of pure, like, badassness, this is easily the #1. This Leatherface is a badass. When he goes to town with the chainsaw, he goes to town. You get that silly, corny cancel line from the trailer, but when he goes to town on the kids in the vehicle or whatever, the bus, it's really awesome gore. Like, the best kill sequence of the entire franchise right there, easily, gore-wise. And when he's, like, taking on the other kids, he throws, like, a big sledgehammer and hits one in the gut and knocks her down into the floor, starts chainsawing and almost takes her out. Really cool, epic scene. The tension here is well done. This film is well directed. It is well directed. It's one of the better directed ones of the franchise, easily. The kids, they throw in some social commentary in here, and I heard a bunch of people, like, before this film came out, it had a reputation where a bunch of, like, people were going, it's going to be woke because it's supposed to tackle social commentary issues. This film is not woke at all. It has some social commentary in here, but it's not in any kind of, like, one side or the other. They're not trying to force any political points. The kids in here have their own ideals about stuff, like some of them do, and, like, the main girl really doesn't give a shit out of the way. She doesn't care, and she's not like the rest. And the more annoying SJW characters are there to be the problem, and they get killed. And, like, there's a guy in the town who's doesn't take shit from nobody, and he ends up trying to help the kids at the end, and he's like and he's not like a over the top liberal character either or anything like that. Like, I have no problem with politics, whatever side you lean on. Like, I don't like politics, but I don't care who you vote for or what side you're on. But what I'm trying to say is this film is not about politics. It's not. It just has some social commentary in there to try and make the story more interesting, because that was partially in the original film with the whole kids being, like, kind of obviously hippies and Leatherface's family being more conservative. So they try to interject a little of that here, but it doesn't come off annoying. There's only one scene that is kind of a little annoying where the girl's sister keeps, like, talking about how much she hates guns or whatever with this dude standing next to her at a gas station when he's obviously got a gun and he's just kind of pumping his gas. He's a regular guy, and she's just, like, bitching about guns deliberately to try to aggravate because the dude's over there with a gun. It is kind of annoying and makes her character annoying, but later on in the movie you realize why she's like that, why she's so anti-gun, and it makes sense. Her sister was in a school shooting and did get shot, so it makes sense why she would be such an extremist. So I like that they developed it with her character. That was cool. You get to the end of the movie, of course you see where the arc's going. The main girl has to defend herself and her sister, and you get a pretty cool, like, epic fight scene at the end with Leatherface where he's taking all these people out. He cleavers the black dude, like, to the face, and friggin', like, you see him with, like, half his face ripped off. Like, once again, excellent gore. A little bit of CGI, but not too much at all. You get to the ending of the film, they take out Leatherface by chainsawing him a little bit up through the face, and he falls backwards into this water, where he actually sets a trap for one of the characters at the end, or a distraction, where he sets his chainsaw on and kind of leaves it laying, and the girl's got, because he knows the girl has a shotgun, she thinks that Leatherface is going to be there, but it's just a saw. And a pretty cool epic fight scene at the end. One thing I will say is the Sally Hardesty character from the original film comes back here. It was kind of cool to have her back at the same time. It is a direct ripoff of Halloween 2018, and that film did do it better. Like, the Sally Hardesty character really does not do a lot in this film. She could have been almost completely written out, but when she actually... You see her an okay amount, but when she actually does interact with Leatherface at the end, she's like, you don't even remember me, do you? Because, of course, she's been harboring this vengeance for him this whole time, but Leatherface is just retarded. He doesn't remember anything. Yeah, he doesn't care about who this woman is. He has no idea. But, of course, she chases him down. She's like, you're going to remember me, motherfucker, and she starts shooting him. Pretty cool action scene, though, and she goes out like a badass. Like, she doesn't do a whole lot in this film. She could have probably been written out, but when she does show up, she gets a really epic fight scene with Leatherface. Leatherface finally gets her and is, like, running towards her, and he chainsaws her, like, up through the stomach and the chest and lifts her up there and throws her, but she manages to survive. And then when Leatherface is getting ready to kill the kids, she's, like, shoots him, like, with a shotgun, like, 5 or 6 more times before she dies. And then that's when the main girl has to toughen up and get the shotgun and go take out Leatherface's ass. Sorry about that. That's the lighting in my vehicle here. I just recently saw this film, and I had to go outside and do my review immediately after. But yeah, she starts kicking like Leatherface's ass, the main girl does, and Sally goes out really epically, but she really wasn't totally needed for this film. But yeah, they think Leatherface is dead, and they're getting ready to drive away at the end with this self-driving vehicle, and then shit, Leatherface pops up, grabs her sister, pulls her out of the vehicle, and slices her head off, and then the vehicle's like driving away with the main girl while she's screaming, but she's getting took away to safety, and Leatherface is like shaking her sister's head and shit, like while he's doing the chainsaw dance. It was really cool from the original film. it was a really cool ending. And then there's a bonus scene after the credits where Leatherface goes back to his old original farmhouse home from the first film, which makes me wonder if they do a sequel to this, will he be reuniting with whatever Sawyer family members are still left from the original film, or in his family at all, and it'll go be a more standard Texas Chainsaw sequel? Or maybe they'll bring back the sister hero from this film, and she'll come back as like trying to take out Leatherface, you know, kind of similar to how Sally was in this film. But yeah, all in all, this was a 3 out of 4. This is a good Texas Chainsaw Massacre slasher film. It's as good as the original film. It's not trying to be like the original film, and audiences today would not go for a film made that way. They can't replicate that. If you're wanting a film replicated in the same style of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, you're never going to get it. You might as well not watch any of the sequels, to be honest. But as far as like a good slasher horror film, this is good. It's a 3 out of 4 easily. Excellent gore, good and great action sequences. Really fun. So yeah, 3 out of 4. It's a good time. If you haven't seen this yet, I recommend watching. It's a good time. It's nowhere near terrible. Like some of the people before this came out who supposedly like read scripts of it and stuff like that were trying to say, worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre ever. This is nowhere fucking close to the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre ever. I'm sorry. If you think this is the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. You got some weird taste. No, not at all. This is a good slasher flick. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.